Hi everyone, today's mission is to show you how I made this little filing cabinet drawer spread. This is in one of the feature pages that I've made a video on. This is the same page that we made our slot pocket with, and it's got the little tab that fits onto the spine, and it will open up like that. So we're going to make that today. That's the sample one. I've printed this paper. It's from page 28, I think it was. Yeah, page 28 from the Steampunk Scrapbook Papers set in the Steampunk MEGA Kit. I'll pop the link below. I printed it A4 borderless and also printed it on best quality, and it's on 250 GSM paper. I wanted something fairly sturdy, so that I'll bring back the sample, so that you can slide things in and out. You don't have to worry about reinforcing it or tearing it in any way, and it's sturdy enough to hold a whole lot of ephemera. So there's a heap of stuff tucked into it, and it doesn't stress the paper at all. So we'll do that. So here's the one we were working on the other day, and I did this on video 09, the slot pockets. So we've done the steam train slot pocket, and this is the same feature page that I've got. So that will go down into the journal, and then this page is going to open up, and I'm going to have my pockets in here. So the first thing to do is this image has actually got enough dark area around it that you can trim it down to suit. So I'm going to cut this image down in half. So I want to go down between those two, the middle of those two there, and just cut those down. And then before I do anything else, I'm just going to bring my page in and have a look. So my height does need a little bit off. Let me just measure it. So this is 8 1/4. So I want these images to be 1/4 of an inch less. So I want them to be 8. So I can take it off the top or the bottom. Let me have a look what I did with this one. I think I took it off the bottom. Yeah, I did. So I'm going to take 1/4 of an inch off the bottom on both pieces. Just line that up. And take 1/4 of an inch off the bottom of both. Now just make sure I've got everything up the right way. So that one's going to go on that side and that on this side. Now these pages will be different size widths, and that's because when I folded it I just left a little bit of room so that you're able to actually pick it up and lift it. So again, I want to just measure this and make my image 1/4 of an inch smaller. So for me this one's 5 1/2 on the left side. Just going to sit, make sure everything's up the right way. So this one needs to be 5 1/2, and that needs to come off this side to make it 5 1/2. Hang on, let me just check that now. I've confused myself. Yeah, 5 1/2. So I want it to be 5 1/4 from this side. Just check that that's correct. Lovely. And then this one I'm going to measure the other side, which will be bigger. So this other side is 5 4/8, 5 5/8, almost 5 3/4 less one. So 5 3/4 less one. So I want to come back. Okay. Let me just check. Yes, so that's all going to fit. Okay, I'll put that board away now. So now when you bring your images in, just double check that everything is going to fit. That's that side and that's that side. And I've got a border around it. I am going to ink it, reason being because it's quite thick and you've just got that white edge. I don't need ink so much on the image, I just want to get rid of that white edge. And I'll do that again, ink again, when I cut the slots in it, just so that they're not showing so much. So like I said, just a tiny bit of an ink, just to get rid of that white inside edge. So they're going to fit nicely on there. Now the next thing we need to do is we're going to cut the slots. So if I bring back the sample, you can see where I've tucked everything in, that there's a slot cut in the board. I'll bring that right up to the camera. You can just see there's a very narrow slot that just has been cut in that. So we're going to do that, and I found it easiest just to do that by lying my piece of paper on my mat, and then you can see this black area just above the drawer handle, and the same on this one. So I'm going to cut that little bit, and that little bit, so just above the drawer handles. And you just want to cut the width of the drawers, so in this case it'd be from there to there. So it's not hard, you just have to be careful to line it up, and I line it up by putting my blade there. So I'm just going to cut carefully and do it twice just to make sure it goes through. And I'll just do this one set and then show you the rest of it. And from there I'm going to flip that round now. So I've cut, you can see I've cut it there, and now I'm just going to cut that next black line. It's only a very thin sliver. Again, I'm just going to cut through that. And if I pick that up, you should see that I've cut that through, and there's just that very thin piece there. And then I just, by eyeball, I'm just going to cut that down, just that little bit. To get that up. And the same on this side. I guess you could try and do that with scissors, but I'd never be able to get it in there quite that well. And then, so that's my slot cut. If I put a piece of white paper behind, you'll be able to see that that's where I've cut that slot out. And then I'm also just going to go in, because now when you're lifting it to slide it, you can see the white edge. So each time I go through a slot, I'm just going to go and ink that slotted edge on both sides, just to get rid of the white. So what I'll do is I'll go and cut all of the other slots. Okay, so I've done all mine. I've actually mucked up on mine. There is at the top of the drawer, you can see on the top row here, there is a black line there, and I've cut above that. It's not going to matter, so I'm not going to redo it. But if you're doing it, do try and cut that little skinny black strip just above the top of the drawer there. So you can see where my slots are. I've inked so all of the white parts have disappeared and they're ready to go onto the feature page, just making sure that everything is the right way up. So it will close like that. That's the right way up there. Now to glue it on, I really suggest that you don't use score tape, because as you see here, when you tuck things into the pocket, if there's score tape there, it's going to hit and stick. So I wouldn't use score tape. I'm going to use art glitter glue, and the way that I glue them down, I flip it over. You can see I've drawn in pen all the places where I'm going to put glue, but I tend to just start and put glue only at the top. And what I'll do, the reason I do that is because then it lets me line it up perfectly and get everything lined up with that piece and glue it down. And I can do the same with this one and just get the top lined, because I want it to be one continuous line. I can move them in slightly closer to the image in the middle, like on this one. You can see there's not a very big gap. You can move it in closer if you wanted to, so that it's like an image with just a tiny little gap there. But it's good to just glue down that top bit. So, and what I've also done is I've just, the little tab bit, I've just put paper clips just to keep that tucked out of the way. So I'm going to do that now. So I'm just putting glue on this whole top section. And it's really easy, especially with the tabs cut in it, just to lift the rest of it and glue it once you know that it's all in the right spot. So I'm just going to fold that in half for a moment, just so I can see exactly what I've got to work with, and then line it up at the bottom without the glue hitting it. And you just get a little bit of wriggle room by the time that's glued down. So once you're happy with that, glue the top down. Do the same on this other piece. And I want it to line up with this top line, and again I just place it into position without the top touching, and just make sure I'm happy with that top line. Slide up a little bit. And once that's on, I can get rid of my paper clips, and now it's easy just to flip up the rest of it and just put your glue along the pen lines. And I find it's really good to actually draw where you're going to glue, because you can get confused once you start flipping this up and down. I've caved and turned the heater on today. It's quite cold even with a jumper on after all the hot weather. Okay, and that will just sit nicely down into place. And do the same on this side. And these are great, these little pockets, because it can hold a ton of stuff in them. So all sorts of bits and pieces can go in them. Really good if I could put glue on in a straight line. Easy as that. And let me grab some of the ephemera. What have we got there? So you can start, obviously let the glue dry, but you can start tucking in all sorts of bits and pieces of ephemera in. And they're quite deep pockets, but they can take all sorts of little tabs and tags and other bits and pieces that you've got, and just tuck everything in, let it dry first, and that's it. We've got our little slot pocket. It'll open up this way and you'll have your filing cabinet drawers, and next I'll work on this page.